According to Jung, although the addicted person may appear to be chasing after a substance, what they are actually after is transcending boundaries, the erasure of a self that has become unbearable. And beneath that, always, is the shadow, the parts of the psyche that have been buried, and that the substance keeps buried. These 7 films know this. Let's dive in.
One person for the rest of your life, you come to restaurants, you see couples sitting together and they don't even speak to one another. They don't have anything to say, they don't have anything...
They probably don't have to speak because they're connected.
Or they're just bored with one another.
Shame, 2011. Brandon lives alone in a minimalist Manhattan high-rise. White walls, tailored grays, no evidence of a past. From the outside, the picture of controlled modern masculinity. From the inside, he is running a system. Every night, the same architecture. The screen, the stranger, the body consumed and discarded before it can leave a mark. What he is purchasing with every encounter is the certainty of not being touched. His shadow, in Jung's terms, is not sexuality. It is the wounded, dependent self beneath the control. Every sexual encounter is a sedative that keeps that self sedated. But McQueen won't let us read this as simple pathology. In the opening scenes, as Brandon sits before his screen in compulsive trance, the soundtrack is Bach, the well-tempered clavier. Sacred music over a profane act. This is not irony. This is diagnosis. Brandon is not seeking pleasure. He is seeking the dissolution of self. That moment when the mind goes silent and the unbearable weight of being Brandon temporarily lifts. The addict reaches downward for what the mystic reaches upward for. Same hunger, opposite direction. Then his sister Sissy arrives, chaotic, needy, impossible to control. In her open wounds, Brandon sees what he buried. The bar scene makes this unmistakable. Sissy sings, the camera holds, and Brandon, who has touched hundreds of bodies without flinching, comes undone. One tear, for the part of himself her voice just made visible. The sedative stops working. The sacred stays out of reach.
It tosses the sandbags overboard so the balloon can soar. Suddenly I'm above the ordinary. I'm competent, supremely competent. I'm one of the great ones. I'm Michelangelo molding the beard of Moses. I'm Van Gogh painting pure sunlight. I'm Horowitz.
The Lost Weekend, 1945. Don Burnham is a writer who cannot write, and the two facts are not separate. Don's ego is built on a single identity, the great writer. He peaked at 19, sold a piece to a major magazine, and has been unable to finish anything since. So every blank page becomes an accusation. It demands the genius he is no longer sure he has, and what rises to meet that demand is his shadow, the ordinary, failing man he cannot bear to be. This is the wound, not the whiskey. The whiskey comes after. And the whiskey does something precise. It silences the shadow and counterfeits the cure at the same time. Jung argued that what the alcoholic truly thirsts for is not the drink, but spiritus, the creative, divine wholeness the soul reaches for and cannot find. Don thirsts for exactly this, the state of pure creation. Drink tosses the sandbags overboard so the balloon can soar, he says at the bar. Suddenly he is Michelangelo, Van Gogh, Shakespeare. For a few hours, he doesn't just stop feeling like a failure. He becomes, in his own mind, the genius the page demanded. He has touched the divine spark, but he hasn't written a word. He has only felt what creation would feel like. This is the trap. Every drink takes him further from the page, which deepens the failure, which demands another drink. The thing he reaches for to become a writer guarantees he never will. He reaches for spiritus and finds only the bottle, and drinks himself empty.
Smashing dress you have on.
Kathy, if you don't mind, I would just like to say hello to my husband Seymour and to my beautiful, successful son Harold.
Requiem for a Dream, 2000. Sarah Goldfarb is an aging widow in Brooklyn, alone in front of her television. Her husband is dead. Her son appears only to steal the TV and pawn it for heroin. Every role that once defined her, wife, mother, a woman others noticed, has quietly ended. What Jung understood is that the psyche cannot tolerate this kind of vacancy. When the structures that gave a life meaning collapse, the psyche will manufacture meaning to fill the void. It is trying to heal itself. The only question is what it reaches for. Sarah reaches for the television. A phone call tells her she has been chosen to appear on a show, and the effect is immediate and total. She has, in her words, a reason to live. This is the spiritus Jung described, the hunger for transcendence, for significance beyond the dying body. But in a world stripped of real ritual, the hunger has nowhere sacred to go. So the studio becomes her cathedral, the stage lights her grace, and an old red dress, worn at her son's graduation, when she was loved and her husband alive, becomes a relic of the self she is trying to resurrect. The amphetamines are how she reaches the altar, and they perform the counterfeit precisely. Alone in her apartment, deep in the trance, Sarah already feels the lights and hears the applause. The pills do not deliver the sacred. They simulate it. When tolerance erodes the illusion, what was buried returns. Not as thought, but as image. The refrigerator growls to life and advances to devour her. This is the shadow made flesh, the loneliness, the uselessness, the death she could not face, now hunting her across her own kitchen. The drug had only been keeping it asleep.
34 år, jeg har ingenting. Jeg orker bare ikke å begynne her på nytt igjen.
Du har familie som backer deg opp, du har venner, du er en smart fyr. Kom igjen, liksom.
Oslo, August 31st, 2011. Anders is 34, nearly through rehab, granted a single day in the city for a job interview. He is clean, and that is precisely the problem. Jung described addiction as a failed initiation. In the old rites of passage, a person was broken down, stripped of the old self, then reassembled into someone larger, guided by ritual and meaning. The addict undergoes only the first half, the descent, the dissolution, the destruction of who they were. The second half never comes. No return, no reassembly, no new self to inhabit. Rehab pulled Anders out of the tunnel, but it only completed the breaking. Nothing rebuilt him. So sobriety does not arrive as rebirth, it arrives as exposure. Without the drug, the vertical dimension, the thing that makes a life feel like it matters, is gone, and the ordinary world lies flat. Coffee, small talk, a friend's tidy domestic life. With nothing to hold it back, the shadow floods in. For Anders, the shadow is time itself. The years burned, the relationships ruined, the potential spent. In the interview, asked about the gap in his resume, he doesn't lie. He tells the truth, and then quietly dismantles his own chance. The interviewer would have kept talking. Anders is the one who closes the door. The world is willing to forgive him. He cannot forgive himself. And that is the cruelty of it. The way out was there. A friend's hand, a stranger's interest, the plain beauty of the city waking up. He simply could not see it. A man broken open and never put back together can stand inside the cure and never recognize it. Christian F., 1981. Most addiction stories are about adults. This one is about a child. In 1970s West Berlin, Christian is 13, living with her mother in the concrete housing blocks of Gropiusstadt, a landscape built for no one, where she is functionally invisible. Home offers neglect. Outside offers gray. Jung observed that in older cultures, a child became an adult through initiation, guided by elders, marked by ritual, carried across the threshold into a tribe that claimed them. Strip those structures away and the need does not vanish. The psyche still demands the right, to be chosen, to belong, to cross over into someone. So it improvises. And a child improvising her own initiation, without a guide, will follow whatever light looks sacred. For Christian, that light is the sound disco, the David Bowie concert, an older crowd that glows with belonging. Heroin is the price of admission. This is what the film grasps that simpler stories miss. She does not take heroin to feel high. She takes it to be initiated, to be held, named, made into someone. The drug simulates what Gropiusstadt denied her: warmth, identity, a tribe, the sense of standing inside a sacred circle, rather than forgotten in a cold tower. For a while it works. She becomes a Bowie character, glamorous, defiant, chosen. What it silences underneath is the terror of a child far too young for the world she's been handed. But an initiation with no elder and no meaning has nowhere to deliver her. The rite meant to make her someone consumes the someone she was. The glamour curdles into the toilets of Bahnhof Zoo, where she sells her body for the next dose. And the frightened child reappears, not hidden anymore, but worn into the face that checks its own pupils in the station mirror, visibly decaying.
You gotta say something! Something! You fucking stand there and you want me to do every fucking thing? Where were you?
Bad Lieutenant, 1992. Most addiction reaches for transcendence and finds only the counterfeit. The lieutenant is the rare case who collides with the real thing and cannot tell the difference. Harvey Keitel plays an unnamed New York cop drowning in cocaine, heroin, alcohol, and gambling debt. His addiction is not pleasure-seeking. It is anesthesia for a specifically Catholic shadow. A man sworn to uphold the law who steals, abuses, and corrupts everything he touches, and carries the full weight of knowing it. Every hit silences the internal tribunal. Every bet drowns out the verdict already passed on his soul. The drugs keep the guilt asleep. Then he is assigned the case of a nun raped in her own church. And she does something that detonates his entire framework. She forgives her attackers and refuses to name them. To a man who believes damnation is the only justice, this grace is incomprehensible and unbearable. Alone in the church, wrecked, he sees a vision of Christ. He curses it, hurls a rosary at it, then collapses, begging forgiveness. This is the moment Jung's Spiritus contra spiritum turns literal. The man is full of heroin and full of God at the same instant, and the film refuses to tell us which he is seeing. Genuine contact or narcotic hallucination? Spirit and poison, indistinguishable. Jung's point about the word all along. What follows is the only real ritual in his life. He finds the two rapists, and instead of killing them, does what the nun did, extends grace, putting them on a bus out of the city with a fistful of cash. Moments later, his gambling catches up with him, and he is shot dead in his car. Redemption and ruin in the same breath. He reached the sacred only at the very bottom, and it cost him everything.
One moment, sir. Just on the back of the check, please.
Well, can't you just cash it as it is?
I'm sorry, sir. Is there a problem?
Leaving Las Vegas, 1995. Ben Sanderson is a Hollywood screenwriter who has already lost everything: job, wife, child, to alcohol. The film never explains why. By the time we meet him, he has cashed his severance, burned his belongings, and driven to Las Vegas with one stated intention: to drink himself to death. To understand what Ben is doing, you have to understand what Jung meant by the dissolution of the ego. In every mystical tradition, the small, suffering self must dissolve so that something larger can be born. The ego dies so the true self can emerge. This is the engine beneath the addict's thirst, the longing to stop being the cramped, painful self. The mystic reaches that dissolution through prayer and is remade by it. The drinker reaches it through blackout and is remade by nothing. Ben has chosen this path in its most absolute form. He does not want relief from himself. He wants the self gone permanently. Drinking is no longer anesthesia. It is the deliberate erasure of a man who has decided nothing in him is worth preserving. An ego death with no resurrection on the other side. And then the film hands him the other door. Sarah, a prostitute, equally discarded, offers the one thing that would complete what he is reaching for. She never asks him to stop. She accepts him as he is, dying and all. In her words, she loves him not in spite of it, but because of it. This is the real version of what he wanted. The self made whole through connection with another, rather than dissolved into oblivion. Transformation was sitting beside him. He couldn't take it. Ben dies in her arms, having brushed the very thing he spent his life chasing, and still choosing the bottle over it. Jung said addiction is a misdirected search for wholeness. Ben found the real thing and could not stop reaching past it for the counterfeit. Jung's point was never that addiction is weakness. The addict is reaching for the right thing in the wrong place, for transcendence, for a self-worth inhabiting. That hunger is the most human thing there is. The tragedy is only the address it gets sent to. Spiritus contra spiritum. The same word for the poison and for what the soul was thirsting for. Thank you for watching.